Great. Hello, everyone, and welcome to tonight's informational session on School Year Abroad, or SYA. My name is Julia Shire. I was in SYA Italy from 2006 to 2007. I'm really thrilled to be hosting tonight's informational session along with our guest alumni. If folks have any questions as we go through, feel free to put it in the chat. We'll definitely leave time at the end for some Q&A, but I'd love to bring in our alumni and have them introduce themselves. Great. Let's have Camilla go first.
Ciao a tutti, mi chiamo Camilla, sono andata a SYA Italy, Viterbo. Sono da Florida, dove sono andata a Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School e adesso sono nel mio primo anno dell'università. So in English, hi everyone, my name is Camila. I went to SYA Italy, Viterbo. I'm from Florida, where I went to Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School, and I'm currently a freshman at Florida State University.
Great. Liliana.
Hola, me llamo Liliana. Estudié en Zaragoza, España, y ahora vivo en Oakland, California, y voy a the Headroy School, y ahora estoy en mi junior year de high school. And so in English, hi, my name's Liliana. I studied abroad in Zaragoza, Spain. I live in Oakland, California, and I go to the Headroy School, and I'm currently in my junior year.
Great. Kay?
Bonsoir tout le monde, je m'appelle Kay, je viens du New Jersey et j'étais en Rennes, France l'année dernière et je vais au Miss Porter School in Connecticut. So in English, hi everyone, my name is Kay. I studied in SYA France last year and I'm from New Jersey and currently I'm a senior at Miss Porter School in Connecticut.
Great. And Gretchen.
Bonsoir, comme Kay, l'année dernière j'étais à SYA France et je m'appelle Gretchen Matsky. J'ai 17 ans et maintenant je suis en terminale à University of Chicago Laboratory Schools. And in English, last year I was with Kay at SYA France, and currently I'm a senior in high school at the University of Chicago Laboratory Schools.
Perfect. Thank you all so much for being here tonight. It's invaluable to have your perspectives. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and offer a quick presentation, and then we'll go into some Q&A with alums. Great. So welcome again, everyone. As we all know, the past few years have been defined by our homes and staying close to home. But at SYA, we hope that you'll consider making the world your home for either a year or a semester through studying at School Year Abroad, or SYA. With campuses in France, Italy, and Spain, SYA will give you the opportunity to step out of your comfort zone, gain independence, and put your textbooks into context. SYA is here to turn your learning journey into one that's focused on real-life experiences and adventures at one of our 3 European campuses. And I'll note that for our Spain and France campuses, we require 2 years of high school Spanish or French, or the equivalent. And for our Italy campus, there's not an Italian requirement, but we do require you to have 2 years of any language at the high school level or the equivalent. So instead of telling you more about this opportunity, let us show you.
Every experience you have here will be an adventure. The risks, the rewards, they're all included.
This entire year has just been about things being based on where we are or where we are going with the school next. You learn about something and then you get to experience it. That makes classes a lot more engaging, knowing that we're going to see the things that we're studying.
You really feel the gravity of the things that you learn out of your textbook rather than just hearing about them and memorizing some flashcards. I think it's the difference between memorization and understanding.
It's not just schoolwork, it's actual practical experience that you can't really get anywhere else.
What SYA does best is make students comfortable being uncomfortable. You really start to embrace the idea of being uncomfortable.
I don't think any other program could really give you this experience. They're willing to throw their students into these situations, trust that we'll be okay, and in the end we are okay, and I think that we take so much away from it just because SYA is willing to give us that trust and freedom.
So the capstone project is the culminating end of year project for all SYA students that's very much grounded in the fact that we are in Spain, and the goal of the project is to take best advantage of the resources that are around us.
I think that I've been able to get through the surface level of my experience here, not only with the land, but with the people. And I think that the longer that you're here, the deeper beneath the surface you can really get.
My host family, they are the cutest people I have ever met. I can leave Italy saying, I'm part Italian now. I am part of their family and they love me and I love them. The relationships that I've created with them, that's something that I'm going to carry with me for the rest of my life.
My friends have been a big part of this experience because I've been able to find a really good group of people who are just as adventurous as I am. I'm very glad I did SYA. It has opened my horizons to travel and being more independent.
I know it can be sort of scary thinking, oh, 9 months in a foreign country. It flies by so fast and it's so fun. It's an experience that I feel so fortunate to have been involved in. It's not something that a lot of people get to do, so if you have the opportunity, please do it.
For anyone who's on the fence about going to SYA or even applying, the fact that you're even thinking about it probably means that you're somebody who should be here.
Great. So at SYA, you'll live with a personally matched host family, as you saw, fully immerse yourself in the local culture, and feel truly at home living abroad. You'll be part of a small student body comprised of sophomores, juniors, and seniors from high schools across the United States, just like yours. And for those of you who might feel a little intimidated by the language element of our program, we want to assure you that a wide variety of learners excel at SYA due to our fully immersive program. Our hands-on, fieldwork-based curriculum will challenge you to think creatively and critically while fulfilling graduation requirements at home. You'll venture outside the classroom and learn by exploring the culture around you. And as you uncover the connections between your coursework and your environment, you'll be challenged to take your education into your own hands. You'll be amazed at the self-reliance you build when you travel throughout your host country and design your own capstone project. And with the assistance of our extracurricular coordinators, you'll be given many chances to contribute to the local community through artistic, musical, athletic, and service-oriented opportunities. At each step of your adventure abroad, you'll be guided by dedicated local and American faculty who will serve as your teachers, advisors, and college counselors. And in addition to traditional college advising and the ability to take standardized tests, SYA students find their voice overseas. The independence, self-awareness, and confidence you'll gain living abroad will help you stand out to the colleges that best meet your interests. And in presenting yourselves to colleges as an SYA student, you'll have a distinct story to tell, and you'll demonstrate the grit and ambition it takes to live in a different country and learn a new language. Just look at the schools most frequently attended by SYA students over the past 5 years. At SYA, we also believe that financial need should not discourage any student from the adventure of understanding a new culture. Nearly half of SYA students receive need-based financial aid or merit-based scholarships. It has been a long past few years, so no better time than now to step out into the world, learn through experience and exploration, and embrace a more global perspective. We invite you to seize this new opportunity to immerse yourself in a new language and culture and broaden your world by making an incredible place like Rennes, Viterbo, or Zaragoza your home. Want to learn more? Scan the QR code and complete the form to receive updates, or visit us at sya.org/admissions. Follow us on social media, TikTok, Instagram, etc. Our campus influencers are creating content weekly. Great. Perfect. So hopefully that gave you a little overview into kind of what life at SYA is like. And thanks again to our alums for being here to kind of dive a little deeper. So we'd like to start with our first question, which is, what was your favorite class? What were the classes like at SYA? Let's start with Kay and then Gretchen.
Okay. Hi, everyone. So my favorite class was definitely art history. I loved learning about everything that there was to offer, and my favorite part of the class was having the opportunity to go to Paris and other museums throughout the country and actually see paintings and architecture in real life and have that really hands-on experience with it. It really made everything kind of come to life more, and yeah, so I became extremely passionate about that throughout my time.
Yeah, okay. So I also was at SYA France. I'm Gretchen. And my favorite class at SYA France was politics or like political science. And that was because the curriculum was very similar to a comparative politics class that you might find in the United States. However, the aspect of being able to interact locally and create real and genuine connections with local people was very different and allowed me to learn in a way that was experiential and not just through a textbook. As well, it gave me opportunities to learn how to discuss political science with people who have a different background than I do and a different view that I do and a different history. So I got the opportunity to learn how to discuss with my host family, for example. As well, it gave me an opportunity to do Model UN in France with a program called Fairmont. And that was such an incredible experience because I still keep in contact with some international French and English speaking students. And it was probably the best Model UN experience of my entire life. And it was very authentic and genuine. So.
Great, perfect. We'd love to also hear about kind of extracurricular activities. Liliana, what did you do?
So in Spain, I got to play on a volleyball team, and of course, you could do multiple extracurriculars, but because volleyball kind of takes up most of my schedule, I just decided to stick to that. I had a practice twice a week and then games on weekends, so it definitely took up most of my schedule, which means I got to get really close to the girls on my team. And there's about 12 of us, and so it allowed me to talk to people my age and kind of have like my own community outside of SYA or my host family. It also got me to practice my vocabulary a lot. You know, it's hard to hear people like from the echoes in gyms and stuff like that. So it really makes you like have to think about what people are saying and also just learn new vocabulary because you don't really talk about volleyball at SYA. So like getting to learn new vocabulary was definitely a big part of it. And I think it really helped my Spanish overall. And yeah.
Perfect. Great. Trips are also a really big part of the SYA experience. We'd love to hear about a favorite memory from a trip. Let's go with Kay and then Liliana.
Okay, so my favorite trip was going skiing in the French Alps in Chamonix. That was the most incredible experience of my entire life. I mean, like it was something I never would have imagined doing. A random February, my junior year of high school. So I went with three of my best friends, and it was, all of us just kind of running around exploring, trying new things, trying new food. Raclette in the Alps is incredible. And that was just such an amazing time. So yeah.
So my favorite trip in my time in Spain, I took a lot of them, so it's really hard to choose just a few or just one. But definitely my favorite was Andalusia, and it's the autonomous community in the south of Spain. And it was like what you think of when you think of Spain, like kind of like warm tone buildings, like flowers like hanging from like pots and stuff. Like it was sunny. It was just a beautiful part of Spain. It was definitely my favorite. I loved it so much. I went back my like during Semana Santa, like the spring break that they have in Spain. And yeah, it was beautiful. And then the teachers that brought us there, they really like let us explore and just a sense of independence while we were there, because a lot of like learning about the culture there is just exploring the streets and getting to visit museums and just being free to explore. So I think that trip did a really great job at that aspect of SYA. So yeah, I really enjoyed Andalusia.
Great, perfect. We'd love to hear about some fieldwork activities. What did you do in the fieldwork part of SYA? Let's start with Camilla and then Gretchen.
Yeah, so fieldwork was definitely like my favorite day of the week. The one that comes to mind is we had this one day where we all came in and we were split into like random groups, and basically they handed us each these envelopes with different cities and towns around Viterbo, and we basically had to like figure out ways to get there just in individual groups. Like we had a budget and we had to figure out transportation and we had like no direction, so it was all of us just figuring out on our own, and it was really stressful, but it ended up being one of the best days of the entire year. So yeah, that's just one aspect of it, but it was probably one of my favorite days.
Yeah, so similarly, I really enjoyed getting to know the area or the region that we were living in, not just the city of Rennes, but outside of Rennes as well. So my favorite fieldwork was this trip that we took to Gassavie, which is like this very cute little town, like 2 hours away from Rennes. And we had the opportunity to walk through a photography gallery about very real and current events that were happening. It was beautiful art, but it was also just an experience to like connect with my peers, learn more about local culture, and just generally getting to explore in a way that I wouldn't be able to at home. So
great, perfect. Host families are also a massive part of the SYA experience. We'd love to hear kind of a favorite memory of them. Let's hear from Kay and then Liliana.
Okay. So my host family was the best part of my entire experience. I mean, obviously being in France for a year was amazing, but I would not have gotten as much if I did out of it from if it wasn't for my host family, especially the language aspect of it all. And so my favorite memory was every Friday night we would make apéritif, which is like just little snacks and stuff for dinner. And my host brother was trying to teach me how to make these little peanut butter cookies that he really liked. And my host sister was 16, my host brother was 14, and I was 17 at the time. So we were all just like in the kitchen. They were talking about current events in France and like what was happening and pop culture. And we were all like playing music and dancing, and they were teaching me how to cook. And that was one evening that I got really, really close with them. And so it was just like such a monumental evening, in my opinion. And I just like really bonded with them. So that was really special for me.
So my host family took me on like lots of like little regional trips in Spain, and we also got a chance to go to France, like the southern area, by like Toulouse. And so it was winter time, and we were on our way back, and I was like watching the snowfall, and we had to make a stop in like a city called Jaca, which is like an hour and a half like north of Zaragoza. And I'm from California, like the Bay Area, so we don't really get any snow. And so then I was like looking up, and they're like looking at me all confused, like, what are you doing? Like, but because they are used to snow, because it's like all around them. It doesn't snow in Zaragoza very often, but like all around them, it snows pretty often. And so I told them, I was like, oh, this is my first snowfall. So they wanted to like remember this whole memory. So we took a picture all together, like as the snow was falling. And I don't know, it was a really sweet, like wholesome memory I got to have with them.
Great, perfect. We'd love to hear about a typical day at school. Can you talk about the community, friends, teachers, kind of what was a typical day like? Let's start with Camilla and then Gretchen.
Yeah, so a typical day would basically just start around, I think it was 8 a.m. And it depended. Everyone had like a different schedule, but we would have on Mondays like advisory period where we'd basically like set out like a layout for the rest of the week. And then we would start with our first class, whether that was like experiential Italian or art history. And then around 10 a.m. we would have like break. So we'd run to the cafes across school and just have like a quick break and talk to our favorite barista, have cappuccino, croissant, and then get back in and continue classes. And then our next break would be lunchtime, which ran about an hour. And then we would go to the Mensa, which is like the cafeteria down the street where the college kids went to. And then after that, we'd finish our day around 4 o'clock. We'd have like an end of the day meeting, wrapping up the day in case anyone had any announcements. And then everyone would scurry off to do extracurriculars. So it seems like a long day, but it was so much fun. It would go by very fast.
yeah, so I'd start my day by taking a bus with two girls who became really close with over this commute. It's a pretty short commute, but and then we would stop at a coffee shop called Columbus, and it was our like collectively basically all of SYA France's favorite coffee shop. And then we'd take another short little walk and talk about whatever it was that was going on that day or whatever. And then when we would get to school, I'd start out with math and then go to French, English, and then we'd have our lunch break. And then I'd finish off with art history and political science and French. And then after school, I would, I forgot to say that the lunches were at a local French high school, Jean Massé, and they had really, really good French nutritious food. And then after school, I would go to political science club. And after that, depending on like the day of the week, I would go to soccer or a different extracurricular. And that's, oh, and then I would have dinner with my host family and do something with them too. So, yeah.
Perfect. Great. Winding down here, would love to hear from Liliana about what made you want to apply to SYA.
So when the pandemic hit, I was like at the end of my 8th grade year, which seems so long ago, but and so like the pandemic stretched over to my whole freshman year. And so like I feel like freshman year is kind of like a very like kind of a learning year for most people. And you know, I was like stuck in quarantine, so I was just like, I want to get out of here, like I want to get out of my house, like I just want to do something like and make up for all the memories that I lost like over Zoom. And so that's why I applied to Spain or SYA Spain. And I don't regret it at all. I'm so glad that like usually people apply like their sophomore year to go their junior year. So I was like one of very few like sophomores. So I'm really glad freshman year me was like really wanted to have just a new experience, because I'm so glad I applied to SYA when I did. It was also a unique experience, like living in a different country during a pandemic, which is like not many people could say. So I'm really glad I applied when I did. And yeah.
Great. Perfect. Great. Thank you all. I think we're going to move to some questions that were submitted in folks' registrations. I see folks are asking questions in the comments, which is great. Please feel free to add those as well. So there's a question about someone's son being interested to go during his senior year and what the college application process looks like. So the college counselor, there's one at each of the campuses, and they work with the students' home counselors at their home schools to ensure that all the applications, materials, prep is all happening kind of in the right order and the right timeline. There's also support for sophomores and juniors and kind of preparing for that as well. But of course, more kind of targeted support for seniors to make sure that the application process happens on time and as robustly as if the student was home. I think there's also a lot of learning that happens during your senior year. And so being away and just having different experiences and exposures, I think only helps folks prepare for their college admissions and choosing which college to go to. There's a question about where students go for their classes. Wondering if one of our alums want to just chat about like, where do you go for classes? Is it all American students? Kind of what is it like?
I can take this. So we have a campus in Rennes, and it's similar among all other campuses, I'm pretty sure. But it's this gorgeous old historic building, and inside is all of the American students. And so you take classes with fellow Americans, but you also do have the opportunity to interact with local high school students. So like I was saying, at lunchtime, we go to the local French high school called Jean Massé, and we also did exchanges with them and like for environmental science and politics. So yeah.
Great, perfect. Thanks, Gretchen. There's a question about, are there any art classes at the school? And we'll just kind of expand that to extracurriculars. So most of the extracurriculars are organized by the town or kind of local groups. And so students at SYA are really encouraged to seek out at least one, but more than one extracurricular. So this could be art or athletics or getting involved in, community service around town. And that's just an extra way to get more involved in the community, as Liliana was saying, expand your vocabulary to stuff that you wouldn't normally have exposure to. And a lot of students feel like extracurriculars are a very large part of their experience, whether it's something that they've done previously or if it's something completely new that they would never have tried at home. There's a question about honors courses, and before I get to that, I'm going to look at this question from Sil. Thanks for offering the question. Are your classes which are taught in French difficult to learn from, and how long did it take you to catch on to the language?
Okay, I can take this one. So for me personally, it took until about December to get good at the language. I had a lot of French under my belt before I came, but I still was nowhere near fluent. Definitely my host family was the reason that I got good at the language, just because, I spoke with them all the time and at dinner, cooking meals, asking them, if I could go hang out with friends, stuff like that. And as well as classes, SYA does a really amazing job of kind of getting us into the language and not just jumping right into it. And, they make sure all of us really understand and are catching up well and, able to kind of learn it. And so with the classes, I was fine. I think most of us were, doing well in the beginning, and we all learned at the same pace, and we were all kind of, helping each other, learning together. So yeah, but it did take around December to, get a good basis of the language. And by the time I left, I was fluent.
Great. Question about our honors courses offered. So all of the courses are honors except for some math options. And most students elect to take the language AP at the end of the program. There's a few other AP classes that are offered, or exams at the end of the year as well. I know that some folks touched a little bit on their commute. Would somebody like to talk to how far are the schools from the host families' homes?
I could touch on that. So it depends for each person. I know someone who was as close they could see the campus like from their bedroom window. So there's that. And then sometimes people had commutes that are a little longer, like 30 minutes. But again, sometimes it's not really that it's far. It's more so that there's just a lot of traffic going on. So for me, it's about 20 minutes during like rush hour, but normally it could take less than 10 minutes on the bus to get home. So yeah, it really depends. And yeah, I think I like catching public transport personally, because I think it's a lot easier in Europe than the US. And yeah, and I also just like got to get friendly with the people on the bus that I see a little girl and her mother going to school like each day, and I used to see that, I'd say hello, like little things like that, just like small interactions that I really valued. So that was the commute for me. But yeah.
Great, perfect. Yeah, I think it was always lots of pros and cons for everything. It's really lovely if you're kind of in walking distance and close to the school, but I was maybe a half an hour bus ride away, and it was really wonderful to have a little community that was really separate from the city that I was going to school in. I had, friends in a community there, but also this community in kind of a little outskirt and a little bit more rural. So that was really a great balance for me. I know that folks touched on the experiential learning aspect. There's a question of how much time students spend on experiential learning outside of the classroom. And so each campus has one day a week where students are formally outside of the classroom, learning or traveling, going to museums, etc. There's often field work more than that, but definitely once a week. Let's see. There's a question about how to go through the application process. There's a ton of information online. If you can go online to sya.org and hit apply, there's a form that you can fill out, and it'll kind of walk you through all the steps of applying. There's also a question about costs and scholarships. There's also a lot of information online about tuition, the multiple scholarships that are available, and financial aid. We work really hard to make sure that students are able to attend regardless of, family economic situations. So definitely reach out to the SYA team to talk about your specific situation, kind of talk through all of the finances. There's a question about semester versus a full year. So SYA was kind of originally intended as a full year only, and we've been offering the semester option in the past many years because we know that folks can sometimes only do a semester for one reason or another. It is definitely more competitive because there are fewer semester slots. Wondering if our alums want to just chat about the semester versus the full year experience.
I can talk about this one. So I'm a bit biased. I was a 4-year student, but I was very close with a semester student, and she told me, like, after she finished her semester, how badly she wished she had stayed the full year. So if you do have that option, if there's nothing keeping you from coming back, I highly, highly suggest it, not just because it's an incredible opportunity, and once you're there, you're going to want to stay longer, but also your language skills improve so, so, so much more in the second semester. So if you can, I suggest doing it.
Perfect. Does anyone else want to speak to semester versus full year?
I can. Yeah, I'm just kind of gonna add on top of what Camila said. I also recommend, I did full year as well, and I just think full year is the best way to go, obviously, if you can. I think the first semester for me was kind of just like adapting to where I was and like being away. And so I think that like my first semester was kind of just me getting used to everything, and then second semester was like when everything started to feel like normal and like kind of at home. And so I think you could also obviously you could have a great experience as a semester student. I have lots of friends that were semester students and they had a great time. But again, like everyone said at the end of their semester, they're like, I wish I could have stayed longer. So I personally think that full year is the way to go if you can.
Great, perfect. Question, are students allowed to fly home during breaks, winter or spring? Wondering if alums want to talk about this at all.
Yeah, I can take this one. There is an option to fly home, but you honestly really don't want to. Winter and spring breaks are a perfect opportunity to either stay with your host family and travel with them, or have your family come if they can, or independent travel. So there are many opportunities to kind of explore the country that you're in. And I have a few friends who did end up leaving the country for a break, and it described like not being as immersed when they came back, because you are in like your target language for a while, and you kind of going back into the US, you kind of break that barrier, and so it's better to stay the full year if you can.
Great. Yeah, I'll also add that they really discourage you, of course, from going back home or even from your American family visiting for like the first little bit or the last chunk, just because there is that adjustment period. And I think, as Kay was saying, it almost takes a few months to really get adjusted, kind of know your way around, bond with your host family. And it's really important to kind of be as fully immersed as possible in that experience and to really kind of throw yourself into it. So I would also just echo that it sounds like a really long time, and especially missing, holidays or birthdays and stuff with your family at home feels really daunting from, the American side of things. But once you're there and get acclimated, you really, don't want to leave and don't want to miss any opportunities, as Gretchen was talking about. Great. I think that is it. Last question, maybe. Are parents welcomed or encouraged to bring their students to the program at the beginning of the year? I think that means kind of like flying over with the students to help get them acclimated. So wondering if any of our alums want to talk about what the experience was like coming over with the group to your new home in SYA.
I can take this one. So in the beginning of SYA, there's a travel group that goes out. I mean, I flew out of Boston with a big chaperoned group. And so no one really had their parents there. We all said goodbye at the gate and then said goodbye and then went through security and flew over together. So that was a really amazing opportunity to get to know everyone or a lot of the people and, kind of feel comfortable. So by the time I actually got to the country, I was like much more calm. By the time I even got on the plane, I was, totally fine. I was like, okay, I got to know everyone. I'm feeling much better now. Obviously going into it, I was nervous, but I felt much better after doing the group chaperone flight. And I also know a ton of people that didn't do it and they got to the country the next day and they met up with everyone at school and they also got acquainted super well with everyone and felt super comfortable. So I definitely recommend going into it on your own while it is scary. you definitely get to know your host family better and you feel way more comfortable and adjust so much better when you're kind of doing it on your own and everyone else is in it with you. So you're all there supporting each other. So yeah.
Great. That's perfect. Okay, yeah, and just to really emphasize that that trip over is really well communicated about and planned with your American family. And I still remember, director came over and kind of did a big presentation to all the parents in Boston Airport, and a little bit of a tearful goodbye, but it was really exciting to have that time and space to bond as a group. You're the only, 50 or so students in the world that are having that experience that year in that country. So it's really bonding, and SYA really shepherds you through the process and is strategic around what that kind of first few days of orientation and onboarding looks like to make sure that you're feeling comfortable enough to jump right in. Great. Last question about packing guides to help bring what's needed. Wondering if alums want to speak really quickly to kind of what the summer prep was like, either with packing or anything else.
I can talk about this. So I overpacked, which is like a thing that I knew was going to happen. But shopping is great in Europe. So definitely don't pack as much as you think you need. Like definitely stick to the list. But you're gonna end up buying so much. I actually still have clothes at my host family's house that I have to go get because I pack too much. But yeah, definitely try to underpack if you can.
Great, perfect. Yeah, lots of information from SYA over the summer about everything from how to pack, who your host family is going to be, the visa process. They really walk you through all the parts of that, and there's a lot of support for how to prepare and have it be successful. Great. I'll just give a second for any last questions. If you didn't get your question answered or weren't able to put it into the chat, please reach out to the SYA admissions team. They're here to help. No question is too big or too small, and they're really helpful around your specific situation or specific questions that you might have. So thanks again to the alums for taking time to join us this evening, and for everyone watching. We really encourage you to reach out with more questions and submit that application soon. Have a good evening.